Totally sucks. 14 minutes into the video, and I just forgot a good part, and I have to start all over. Hello, and welcome to Convict Inc. I'm your host, Robert Rosso. I hope the glare's not as bad as what I'm seeing right now, but I'm going to roll with it. I see a little circle in the back. That's like the stand, the light from the stand or something. Anyway, please hit the subscribe button. Please hit the like button. I really appreciate it. To all you subscribers, as I said in the video before, my wife is telling me that we can do something special for the subscribers only premium account too, or so. I don't know. And I know I've been for like 2 months now, I've been saying, I don't know this, I don't know that. I don't know this or that. But when it comes to technology, I'm just sitting down with my badass iPhone that my dude bought me when I got out of prison. And just, I push a button, put it on a little stand, I push a button and roll. We're supposed to be like edited right now. We're supposed to be like bumper music and a little thing that goes across the screen. We're just doing this. So anyway, what's his name? Michael? Is it Michael or Kenneth McKinley? Michael McKinley. One of the guys. Somebody please reach out and give that guy a hug. All right, I'm going to talk about a guy by the name of No Nose Rick Brown. I'm pausing because if you've been in the feds, USP, especially from like 97 till 2013, you at least probably heard of No Nose. Okay, No Nose. Rick Brown was born in Oregon, I think the Eugene area, I believe, youngest of 5 brothers. So imagine being the youngest of 5 boys, and all of them, from what I understand, were pretty mean. They were the brothers that showed up at a party, all of them, and like fought everybody. There was a pretty famous scene that went down in Oregon back in the day where the Brown boys fought like the local cops. It's like a little legend around there. I've actually ran into 3 or 4 people that knew the story. Anyway, Rick was by trade a logger, a pot grower. I don't know what else he did, but he was married. I think he had 4 kids, I believe, 3 or 4 kids. And then he met a different kind of girl. The girl's name was Robin, and she was a party girl. Kind of girl liked to do methamphetamine for days on end, didn't have a home or much of anything else, but she was really pretty and she liked to party. And of course, she hooked Rick for whatever reason. Rick was not a drug addict, from what I gathered, from what I've been told. I think he did a little speed, but he wasn't a drug guy. He smoked weed and he drank a lot. How he met Robin or how that all went about, I'm not really sure. They ran in different circles. But when he met her, he fell and he eventually left his wife and kids for her. And I want to add real quick that he did talk about how bad he felt about that years later. I just want to put that out there in case any of his family ever watch. I know he talked to his kids quite a bit, a couple of them. And yeah, I know that ate him up. Anyway, so Rick meets Robin. I forgot why he went to prison, but he did. And while he was in prison, he was hearing stories about his Robin not being so faithful. Rick has these scars on him. I believe it was here, and here. And you can see that they're perfect imprints of an iron, like a clothing iron, whatever. And from what I've been told from somebody who was in OSP, Oregon State Prison at the time, he heard some bad news about Robin, that she was out fucking with somebody, and he grabbed the iron and went, ah, ah. So, you know, that's what kind of, that's who we're, I just want to put that out there so you know who we're dealing with there. Strong son of a bitch, tough, great fighter, golden gloves in the state prison system, long brown hair, Conan the Barbarian, kind of, you know, the whole muscle ripped up thing, looked like he just does push-ups in his sleep. Used to make heavy bags out of whatever he could and punch heavy bags all day. Deep crow's feet, you know, he's really had a lot on his shoulders, heavy burdens he'd been carrying. That's what he looked like. And of course, he had no nose. The tip of his nose right here, gone completely. Okay. So Rick is in prison doing time for whatever charge, and he decides that he doesn't want to stay much longer. So he decides to escape. He's down at a medium security prison, or maybe a low, whatever, grabs a ladder and jumps over the fence one day, literally. Darling Robin is standing by. The two lovebirds then made their way up to Alaska, where they were going to live happily ever after. And of course, we all know that girls that do meth really want to be in Alaska, homeless, living in the bush, like the Brown family or something. You know, that's what every meth girl's dreams about. But Rick brought her to a logging camp, found work up there on an island. And he was living his dream with the love of his life. But the love of his life liked to party, and she used to bring him into town every time she got a chance. And one of the things she really got off on was getting him into fights. That is, Rick was a drunk. He was a heavy drinker. She liked to make sure he was toasted, and then she would like to flirt, like to have guys smack her on the ass, so Rick would go after him. That's what I've been told. He's half-assed confirmed that, but that's what we're dealing with here. During one of those fights, him and a guy got into it. Rick had got the best of the guy, and when the guy got up, bit Rick's nose off. That's what I've been told. And he just kind of rolled with it. Just, you know, we didn't need that little piece of the nose anyway. Anyway, they were up in Alaska somewhere one day, and they had made an agreement. Of course, Rick, he's an escapee. He escaped from prison. She's with him, so she's an accomplice, aiding and abetting or whatever. And they decided, you know, they made an agreement, I should say, never to use the phone. For whatever reason, on this particular day, evening, Robin used the phone to call her mom that she missed. And you know what was the craziest thing? And it's a real big mystery. As soon as she hung up the phone, within minutes, the cops surrounded Rick. Don't know how that happened, but that's what happened. He got arrested. She did too. They were in jail up in Alaska. He took all the weight, whatever. I think he said he was beating her and threatened her, whatever. He took the rap so she can get out, which she was, I guess, supposed to do. And he was. And he ended up getting 15 years for armed career criminal, I believe. Now, late 90s, Rick ends up at USP Florence. Got into a fight with black guy or black guys. Ends up getting transferred from Florence to Leavenworth, where I was serving a mandatory life sentence. I lived in Belower at the time. Rick shows up in Belower, and he recognizes some guy named Gino Klein and Alex Salco, both from Oregon. And Gino brings Rick up to me, introduces him to me, and asked if I had an extra radio that Rick could borrow. And I'll never forget when I met him. I couldn't stop staring at the no-nos, you know, and you know that he knows you're looking at it, and it's just a bad trip. I just wanted to get him the radio and like not look like, here you go. That's how I really felt. Yeah, real crazy looking. And you feel sorry for him at the same time until you get to know him better. But no. Anyway, so Rick ends up with a couple days later up to A3, and he made sure I got my radio, which I thought was pretty righteous because some dudes would scumbag out and try to, you know, burn off with it. And I really didn't see too much of him for, man, damn near, you know, 6 months or better. In December of 1999, I ended up going to the special housing unit, or the SHU, or the hole, for a dirty urine. And I'll never forget the first time I walked into the SHU. The SHU is literally a county jail within the prison. You got your 40-foot walls. Just go ahead and Google a picture of Leavenworth. You see your 40-foot walls. And then you have chain link fence. And inside that chain link fence is a county jail type, modern day county jail type structure that holds like 240 or 260 people. They told me that I was going to go down on A range cell 119, which is all the way in the back. And sure enough, I got my hands cuffed behind my back, and I'm sliding down the tier. We get to the end, and I look in the cell. You know, there's a window, and I look inside, and it's completely pitch dark. Cop taps on the door. Brown, get up. up. You got a celly. Fuck, no, I don't want no fucking celly. That's what I hear back. I'm like, God, Jesus Christ. Brown, I said, get up. You got a celly. Fuck you, fuck no, I'm not taking no celly. I'm like, oh man. The cop just says, hey, open cell 119. I'll never forget the smell. Onion, BO, rotten fruit, and the smell of wine cooking, fermenting, wine, hooch, whatever. The floor looked like somebody had drank wine in there every day for a year and like just spilled the bag when, just left it like, fuck it. Just thick, caked on, dirty, nasty trays, plastic trays. Now those are contraband, not supposed to be in the cell. He had a dozen of them because the cops just didn't want to bother him. If he wanted to keep the trays, he kept the trays. He had meals in these trays and there was fucking roaches crawling in them. And there wasn't even very many roaches in the shoe. I'll never forget him coming up from the blanket. I keep biting on peanuts. They're stuck in my teeth. I ate peanuts before I came home. He pulled the cover up, and I'll never forget. I didn't know when he said brown. I didn't know. And I just remember seeing him, and there's this, like this monster. Oh my God. Oh, please don't keep me here. But I didn't say that, of course. And the cop then goes and just takes my handcuffs off. Tells him to shut the door. Now, what was supposed to happen was that the cop's supposed to say, okay, Brown, get up. You got a celly. Brown, the person in the cell is supposed to walk up, put his hands behind his back, cuff up, and the door's supposed to open. I'm supposed to walk in, and then they're supposed to uncuff me and him. They do that for protection because many times a new guy gets put in the cell. He's got his hands cuffed behind his back. The guy comes up, boom. I did this to somebody once. I gotta do a video about that. Poor bastard. Anyway, that's what Rick could have done to me. When he saw me, he goes, oh, you're the guy that gave me the radio. I said, yeah, okay, I remember you. I think he even asked, do you remember me? It's like, no, I don't remember. It's, half the compound doesn't have a nose. Of course I remembered him. Anyway, so he asked me if I smoked. I did back in those times. He had a bunch of tobacco, contraband, tobacco in the shoes, contraband. He had plenty. And of course, there was just a shitload of wine in the shower. So I'm like, yes. And I said, hey, man, what's up with the wine? He's like, oh, we're coming down tonight and got some for tomorrow and the next day. And I'm like, oh, right, yes. Well, we start, doing our thing, talking, hey, I'm from here, you're from here, blah, blah, blah. And we start doing all that. Across the tier was Billy. I'm not going to put Billy's name still. Billy and Robert Wolf, both dirty white boys. They yell over, hey, who's in the cell, blah, blah, blah. I start yelling over. They really didn't know me well. And, I'd been there a year. Again, I've told people that I started hanging with the dirty white boys, but not all of them. Especially the ones that were on that side of the prison, which is A and C cell house. Not too much. The guys in the B cell houses, upper and lower, those dirty white boys I was around. Well, night comes around. We start drinking. We sent some wine across the hall, the other side of the tier to Billy and Wolf. And the way we did that was they had sent a fishing line, put a battery on the end of a sheet that was ripped, bed sheet, slung it across the tier over on our side, and then we had a plastic trash bag. And you can put a gallon in and you stuff it through the door. You kind of like have to finagle the liquid so it goes through, but it works lovely. And they got their gallon of wine. So we're sitting there drinking and, it's story time. The more, have 3-4 cups. Now you got a quart in you, feeling good. And Rick starts telling me about Robin. And you can see clearly that this girl was still living right there with him in his head all day, every day. And the way he talked about her, the way he told me the story about Alaska, it's very different from the versions I would later hear from different friends, but how he romanticized and the way that he talked about how awesome it was, them being in a camp or a deer camp or living in the trees with nothing together. Like, that was like life. And I'm thinking, man, no meth whore don't like that shit. I don't know too many that like. Maybe if she had like, some pounds strapped on her or something. Yeah, she can live anywhere. Yeah, I clearly saw that something didn't match. The drunker we got, Rick's talking, I'm talking, all of a sudden he goes, "What are you looking at?" I'm like, "Huh? I see you looking at him. I see you. I said, no, what are you looking at?" And I'm like, I don't want to say, fuck, man, did I just get caught looking at his nose? He's like, "Just go on, ask me." And I'm like, "Ask you what?" "Ask me." And I'm like, "Oh, okay. So how'd that happen?" He's like, "I had to feel the pain." And I'm like, "What?" He thought that I was looking at his scars. It was like, no, why would I look at your scars when you don't have no nose? Like, you know what I mean? If anything, I'm staring at your no nose. But he thought I was looking at the iron marks that he put on him. And he's like, "I had to feel the pain." And I'm like, "Okay, all right. The pain." This is really what he was doing. And now I'm like uncomfortable. And he said that the pain, that he had to burn himself to feel the pain of when his mom died. I later met somebody who lived next door to him when it all went down, who actually knew Robin. And the pain was, it's what he did when Robin cheated on him. He burned himself and screamed out loud. And it smelled like burnt bacon kind of stuff, And there were some nasty ass scars. He then goes from talking about his mom, the pain of the mom dying or whatever. That's what he was trying to say. Into stories about Robin. And the next thing you know, he starts, breaking down. And I didn't know, crying. I was like, okay, well, he breaks out a letter from Miss Robin. And in that letter, in the end of the letter, it said, "Meet me in Valhalla." What had happened was, after Rick was sentenced, Robin, who wrote him periodically, said that she loved him so much and couldn't handle being in Oregon. She took off, found her way to Arizona, where she was with the guy who allegedly raped her, and she killed him. So the story goes. And while she was in jail, she wanted to make good on their promise. And the promise was a suicide pact. And Robin did it, according to No-Nos and Mike. I'll say that. There's a couple other guys, but Robin did it. So she had wrote him right before she killed herself. "Meet me in Valhalla, my love. Meet me. I'll be there, my love." It was like, hey, it was eerie, creepy, fucked up. And it was like, I had tears. I didn't, I'm drunk now. And it was like, oh my God, So there's the torment right there. Now I know why he's tormented. The girl went through with the suicide pact and he didn't do it. And I'm like, oh, that's a bad one to have on you. And I felt really, really bad for him. And just about the time I felt bad for him, he fucking jumps up like out of the air and starts screaming, "I hate," and then starts yelling the N-word. Over and over. Made me think that maybe Miss Robin was with the black guy and this is why he hated him. I never really got that, but he just started screaming, "I hate," and beating on the door, and the cops come to the door and it's a black guy, and Rick's, "I told you I hate," and wow, what a bad trip that was. Talk about a buzzkill, man. So that was my introduction to Rick. Now, let me speed this up. Rick had me working out the next day. He was 40. I was, 29 or whatever. But he played the big brother role, the older convict role. And, like a lot of the old woods in California did, they get the youngsters working out. And he got me on a workout program. Well, I was with him for 14 days or so, started doing burpees for the first time ever, I think. And he also wanted me to read Sun Tzu, The Art of War, which are big prison books that white guys read. White guys. The Art of War. What's the other ones? Damn! every white guy that's watching this that knows what I'm talking about too. I just totally drew a blank. Okay, so he gave me those books, and I got out of the hole. I ended up giving them back to him later. Sometime down the road, I find out, and I didn't even know right then, that Rick was actually in the hole to get his patch for being a dirty white boy. The reason he was there is because he took a contract from some Indians. He fucked up an Indian, and it was a contract hit where the Indians contracted the whites to go do it. The dirty white boy, whoever was calling shots, which was Wolf, got a percentage. Rick gets a percentage, and he also gets a patch for doing the mission. So he's a dirty white boy, and he's 40. So he got tipped up when he was like 40 years old. Sometime down the road, when it came time for me to get my patch, he was totally against it. Not happy. We got along up until the point where I was going to get my patch. And I'll tell you, we never saw eye to eye much from that point. He had a guy by the name of Big Jerry that was his right-hand man, and he felt that Big Jerry should have all the perks of being a dirty white boy and be lower. So because of my patch, I was able to get a portion of the card table, poker table. We had a store going, just all the gang stuff that goes along with it. Jerry was actually, because he was Rick's dude, when I went to the hole for a long period of time, he was able to run be lower without having a patch, but just being an associate of the Dirty White Boys and getting all the perks of being a Dirty White Boy, but never actually having a patch or putting in the work. So when I came out, I was a problem for them both. Now, that's nothing against Jerry at that point. This is not talking about Rick. Me and Jerry had issues later, which I talked about on Chad March's channel. But Rick also left me hanging on a racial incident. I talked about that when Fat Dixon stabbed Rags. I went to the chow hall to look for some guidance, look for some support. Rick, the same person. He told me to go handle it myself, and that's not what was supposed to have been done. So there was different things. He was also pretty much self-serving, some people would say. And all of us were dope fiends except for him. He was an alcoholic and smoked weed. Now, he'd smoke weed every single day if he could, but he didn't like people that did heroin. And that was every one of his brothers. When Kenny left, he got the keys. So he didn't even have a year, and he was the shot caller. What ended up happening is one day out on the bleachers, we were all drunk. We were talking about hitting his friend, Big Jerry, and everybody wanted to go hit Big Jerry. And Rick popped up and said, "Why do we have to hit him? Why don't I just go to the staff and I'll have him taken off? I'll tell BZ, which is AW, to get him off the compound." Now, for those of you that don't know, you are never supposed to go to staff and tell them to remove somebody from the compound. At least not people that are gang members or in USPs or in cars or whatever. And all you guys out there know what I'm talking about. So this is a guy that blurts out on the bleachers when we're having a meeting, church. It's called church meeting, gang meetings, whatever. And blurts out that he'll go to Beasley and have him taken out. That said a whole bunch right there. That said that he had prior history with Beasley, that he can go get something done, which means they had a working relationship. You don't get a working relationship with staff like that. In the way that he did it, it's one thing to know staff members for a while because they have to see you for different reasons. But when you're not that familiar with staff and all of a sudden you can go there and have that kind of pull, something smells there, But he was basically saying, he did say he would go to staff and have a guy taken off instead of us handling the business. And in prison, the prison world, that's a bad thing. So really, probably, for sure, everybody should have jumped him and smashed him right then and there. And he was given a pass for that, which says a lot, I know. So that's a whole different issue. Anyway, there was other stuff that he did that pissed off other brothers. Now, there was too many dirty white boys. Whenever you have more than 8 gang members on a prison yard at one time, it gets to be too much. And I know that there's, especially like a lot of the Latin gangs or the GDs and the vices, they have like big numbers sometimes, right? But I've always found like, 8's good, 7, 8, because too many people, there's too many people that are border idle. Guys get jealous, different personalities, whatever the case is. There was the dirty white boys were divided in little fractions. So you had like Rick, Billy, and Randy, and then me, Dusty, and Dutta. So you had these different people that all were loyal to each other first, then to the patch. You know what I mean? So the reason Rick didn't get hit is because of this division amongst each other. Now, some time goes by, and a handful of bros, that is Head, Weasel, Youngster, and TC, decided to go hit Rick by themselves. That's not supposed to happen either. So one day, when I was in the unit shooting dope, they went out on the compound during lunch on a weekend, and they went and they fractured his jaw, hit him with the hairline fracture. He got up and fought back. Like I said, he was a hell of a fighter. Loved to fight. So they hit him. We all go to the hole, and we actually never got out after that. That's the whole thing. The arms got involved. Other people in the compound got involved to keep us locked up and get us transferred. Rick ends up at USP Lewisburg with me, Jeremy Scott. Randy, Dusty, Weasel. That's what I was trying to say, not Dusty, Weasel. We go to Lewisburg, from Leavenworth to Lewisburg, and we immediately say, no, Rick, you're not going to be the shot caller. Now, he didn't get kicked out. He had some brothers jump on him, and they just separated this amount, okay? So he should have been crossed out at that point. He should not have been allowed to. He should have been out. He should have been crossed out of the game. Should have been fucked off. I mean, that's just keeping it real. We never, Rick and I, again, like I said, I can't repeat, we never liked each other after that. What ends up happening is Rick gets transferred from Lewisburg. They send him down to, not Pollock, Lee County. He gets to Lee County, and he starts a softball team, which is the origin of the Dirty White Boys, and he gets a bunch of guys. He's really good about getting youngsters and molding them because, he was appealing to young guys, especially guys that weren't in gangs, but he would grab them, snatch them up, and he patched everybody. He had like this group patching. All right, you guys want to be Dirty White Boys? Okay, come on. You're it, Dirty White Boy. Get a patch, you get a patch, you get a patch. That's what he did. That is fucking no-no, and that's a whole different issue of what happened with the Dirty White Boys and the feds. At one point, Cisco, which was a hell of a bro, comes down there, and they smash no-nos there as well. And then from there, he went to Terre Haute, and he got hit there as well, and eventually dropped out of the gang, and now he's home on the street. I'm going to back up a second and say that Rick and Big Jerry were friends. I had mentioned to Rick that I thought that I was told Jerry was hot. That's exactly what I said. Rick then went and told Jerry that I called him a rat, trying to get Jerry to hit me. That's the kind of shit he pulled. This whole story, and the reason I'm even bringing this out, is not about me and Rick. It's because Rick was such a famous person in the feds, like everybody knew who Rick was. The guys who really did like him were not his bros. He was good at using the Dirty White Boys. He really didn't. It was just like an end to a means. Like, I don't think he ever really wanted to be a dirty white boy. He just wanted the power. Like, he wanted to have this little army to do whatever, you know, he can to manipulate. And I think he really resented a lot of people, a lot of the bros that had patches. There's one more thing that I forgot to mention. I'm going to look back. I'm going to hate this story too, but I'm going to go with it. Rick got in a fight with the dude that is a biker, outlaw biker from the Outlaws, named RD, I'm sorry. And RD's also, like Rick, a tough son of a bitch, had doing a life sentence. They got hemmed up on a conspiracy out of Wisconsin with Spike, that's Kevin O'Neill and those guys, for all you guys in the feds that know names. Rick and RD, they go up to A3. They got into a fight, and this fight was supposed to be one of the most incredible fights like anybody had ever seen in prison. These dudes went toe-to-toe for like 4 minutes, almost 5 minutes. That's a long time in prison, just to be slinging them back and forth, and they were dead even. They were so even that they just literally stopped and went, and were taking a break, and they looked at each other, and I think it was RD that said, "Are we good?" And Rick said, "Yeah." And they went to go, you know, and hug each other. And Rick did it. And as soon as he came out, boom, he uppercut and laid RD out. Straight, scandalous move, man. You know. Anyway, so in dirty white boy history, in the feds, Rick No-Nos did a lot of bad stuff to further make the DWBs look bad. Not that we needed any help because of other stuff that was going on, but this one guy did do a lot of bad stuff, and that's what happens when you're in that gang stuff and you don't root the problem out. You should have rooted it out, you know, when it arose. For instance, that day on the bleachers, it should have been taken care of, you know. Then he wouldn't have been able to go on to Lee County and patch a bunch of guys up that, you know, you're it, tag, you're it, dirty white boy, you're it. That's what happened. It was embarrassing. Around that time is when I went to the hospital, and I was no longer a part of gang life because I was away from it all. And but I would hear stories, and I was just like, oh man, it was like so embarrassing, you know. Anyway, so that's the story of No-Nos Rick Brown. He did have a girl. He had a place to go. And I will say this. Let's forget about prison for a second. And I say this about a few different people. He was really, and he wrote his daughters often. And you know, he really cared about those kids for whatever mistakes he made in life. And I can see him being like a good dad or grandpa. I don't know where he's at. I don't know what his life's like. You know, maybe somebody's going to reach out to me that's related and cuss me out for putting this out there, whatever. But I will say that, you know, he talked often about his family, the struggles they were going through. I personally know some of those struggles, and I'm not going to put that there. That's real wrong. But yeah, he cared a lot. So I do hope if somebody ever knows that, they'll know that happened. And I heard that he was going to get a nose. Somebody asked him, you know, why he didn't get the nose fixed. I heard he was going to before he got locked up. Again, it was like a bar. There's two stories. One was that it was a bar fight. Robin got him in the fight. The dude did, you know, the old trickaroo where he bit the nose off and then he spit it out. Another one was they were walking down like a street or something, and they got into a fight. And then the guy took Rick's nose because it was like a prize. I don't know the real story. These are just stuff that I've heard. But everything I've told you, I've confirmed with other people as far as Robin's background. Yeah, this was a sloppy one, right? This was a sloppy video. Yeah, shit, not satisfied with it. But there it is. I'm going to try to listen to this before I put it up. But it's going to go up. I can't do this much video and not put it up. And there's a story, No-Nos Rick Brown.